Hey, Special Chronicles listeners, I'm Daniel Smokowski, founder of Special Chronicles, coming to you at the start of the program today to invite you to join our community and support our 2026 Giving campaign to keep amplifying the voices of individuals with special needs. Your gift powers studio operations, production, and inclusive media. Donate today at specialchronicles.com/give.
This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. Lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time to stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome back to the Special Chronicles podcast, where we give respect and voice to people with special needs through the media. In this episode of our inclusive travel series, we sit down with Laurie and Caroline Bridges from Tock Travel to explore how to make travel more inclusive for individuals with developmental disabilities. Laurie shares the story behind Caroline's birth and diagnosis, while Caroline opens up about her own travel experiences from university life to Disney cruises. We also dive into practical tips, common barriers, and offer resources for planning stress-free, inclusive travel. If you're looking for real-world advice to make travel accessible for all, this episode is for you. Please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Laurie and Caroline on Special Chronicles. Oh, did it? Yeah. There. Oh, there. We're there.
Right there.
Welcome.
There we are.
Welcome on Special Chronicles. I think this will probably be the first episode of 2026.
Nice. Well, Happy New Year.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. It's this weird podcasting science fiction type of war in the past, but I'll listen to hear this in the future.
Right. Well, we're glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad. And so we got connected. My content producer, Darian, had recommended you both because we are putting together an inclusive travel series on this podcast. And we've done some travel episodes in the past, but now we're trying to kind of bring that back and kind of relaunch this inclusive travel series. So before we get into more of inclusive and accessible travel, Laurie, can you tell us about the birth story and diagnosis of your daughter, Caroline?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Laurie. I'll kind of back up a little bit in that I went to school to be an occupational therapist before Caroline was born. I started my occupational therapy career working with adults with developmental disabilities and worked there for a few years, and then kind of went to the younger end of the spectrum and started in early intervention. And when I was working in early intervention was when I had Caroline. And so I was kind of working in that area, and new mom, she was my first, and just trying to figure it all out. And I remember she really didn't have any trouble. We did have to have a C-section when she was born. She was, facing the wrong way, and we had a little difficulty there. But otherwise, she was a normal baby, healthy. And so no real difficulties, early on. But when she got to be about 10 months old, I remember my husband, Will, looked at me, and she was playing on the floor. And he said, well, when is she going to talk? Well, I knew at 10 months you don't start talking. But knowing development, I realized it kind of cued me into, wait, she's not doing the things she needs to be doing to be able to talk. She's not babbling. Like, we're a little bit behind on milestones. And so a little red flag went up at that point, and I started watching her really closely. And she was delayed in milestones. Carolyn, you crawled about 11 months and you walked about 17 months. So it was a little bit later. And her speech was very delayed. And so we started getting her evaluated. And we lived in Louisiana at the time. And we had her evaluated by all the therapies, and she started early intervention. And the doctor said, yeah, I mean, obviously she's young, but she does look like she's on the autism spectrum. And so we just started the therapy journey, and she began to make progress. And in there, Clark, her brother, was born.
Yep.
And then we moved to Texas. And her pediatrician here in Texas said, hey, we want to get you into Texas Children's, where they have an autism center. Well, it took us a few months to get in there, but then we got in. They said, yes, she has autism, but we do blood tests just to rule everything else out. We don't expect to find anything. In Louisiana, they didn't do genetic testing. And in Texas, they just did it as good practice. And I'm so thankful that they did, because what did they find?
I have Fragile X syndrome. And I believe that pediatrician has since retired.
He has since retired. He was a good pediatrician. And yeah, so we found out that she has Fragile X syndrome. And obviously there's a lot of people that are like, the joke is fragile what? And there's so many misconceptions about what that is. Some people have even said, does that mean that you have fragile bones? And I was like, no.
Nope. And then she found out she was a carrier because of me.
Yeah, so I have a premutation for Fragile X, which also has its own conditions. So anyway, it was a whole new world, and we were very thankful that we did get the testing and that we did get the diagnosis, because it's made a lot of difference. I printed off a definition of Fragile X in case your audience was wanting to know. I thought Carolyn could read the definition.
Fragile X syndrome is a genetic condition that can cause learning, behavior, and developmental challenges, as well as sometimes various physical characteristics. It is the most common inherited cause of intellectual disability and is the leading known genetic cause of autism. Fragile X syndrome occurs when a change in the FMR1 gene on the X chromosome affects how the brain develops and functions.
Yeah, so it's a mutation on the X chromosome. And if you want to find out more, the National Fragile X Foundation is a great resource, and that can be found at fragilex.org. So yeah, that might be something you could tag in case people want to learn more about Fragile X syndrome. Like I said, it's the leading fragilex.com. Mm-hmm.
I think it's fragile.org.
Oh, it is .org. Sorry.
I think they use org.
They
on
do.
that
You're right.
one.
Thank you, Carol.
Is it FRAGILEX.org?
.org. Yep.
All right. So I'll put that up on the screen for our viewers, and then if you're listening to us on audio, we'll put that resource in the notes below.
Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. And so Caroline, building upon your mom sharing your story, my sister has, my sister has the same name as you, who just got married last month. So that's a fun
Fact.
fact. Yeah. And Caroline, can you share what your disability diagnosis is, and what it means to you, and how it shaped your experiences?
It's been complicated, just makes everything harder.
Yeah. School was harder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, now we're gonna dive into the both of this Tip Talk travel, which is the reason that why we're having you both on. You both share how your Tip Talk travel business and Instagram account came about. If our viewers are watching us on YouTube right now, you see Instagram handle underneath your name there on the screen, and we'll put that link in the description below. Wow. In addition to showing how this Tip Talk travel business and Instagram came about, was there a specific moment that inspired you to start this journey?
Yeah, I don't think there was a specific moment. I think Caroline has been always good about finding tips, and she loves to travel. So she would send me, tips for Disney cruises, or, when they were coming out, or when there was a new ship, or, things about airports, or, you sent me information about, when the Real ID was coming out and when you knew you had to have that. So she's on top of things, and she would send me, all of these tips, if you will. And so we thought, well, why don't we just create a platform and start sharing some of these tips? And so it was kind of a generic tip page at first, and then it ended up kind of focusing in on travel, because we just thought, well, this is something we're both interested in. And me being an occupational therapist and her being a person with a disability that travels. And at the time, you were in the Carolina Life program at the University of South Carolina, and she was finishing up that program, and you were trying to figure out what you were going to do with the rest of your life. Yep. She kind of ended up in a focus in hospitality. And so that's sort of where this kind of fits into that hospitality industry. And so we kind of came up with this idea of, why don't we create a page and post tips? And then we ended up getting connected with a company, All Your Wishes Travel. And the owner of that is Casey Cater, and she has a daughter with autism, and kind of got our vision of what we were trying to do is help people with disabilities travel and break down barriers for that. And she has a passion for that too. So anyway, we kind of got paired up, and it just seemed like the perfect fit. And the next thing we knew, we were travel advisors and figuring out how to plan trips. And, as an occupational therapist, I've been helping people accommodate for their life for the last 25 years. But so moving into the travel industry, it's different, but it's also similar, because you're just accommodating for the needs, as you travel. So anyway, we're both interested in it, and then it just kind of went from there. And so now we have Tip Talk Travel, which is our tips, and the talk is kind of reference to a clock, because it's time to travel for everyone. So that's sort of where it came about.
You're like one of the newest members of their little team.
Yes, we are one of the newest members of All Your Wishes Travel. So
awesome. So building upon those tips that they said that Caroline has shared with you, as experts in inclusive travel, what are your top tips for planning a vacation, especially for families with children or loved ones who have developmental disabilities?
Sure. I think looking definitely first at where you want to go, looking at the location. If your family member has autism, there are certain places that are autism certified, are labeled as autism friendly. And like, for example, the beaches resorts are autism certified, which means their staff have been through trainings about autism, and which can be very helpful when you go. And so their staff at like the kids camps, all of those have been trained in autism. So that's really a good thing to know. So looking at your destinations, Royal Caribbean has some accommodations that are really good. They allow for early boarding. They also have some built-in social stories that are already built for their ships, for many of the ships, which can be super helpful. and even smaller destinations such as museums sometimes have visuals and schedules and pictures and things that can be, really, really helpful. I think also your pre-planning, getting things together before you travel, figuring out what you need, getting your itineraries together, visuals together, checklists together, a travel kit together can be really helpful.
Awesome. So as a lot of people know, travel can be stressful, both from getting to the airport to even that process, and just overall of not being in your regular daily routine. So how can travel be made less stressful, both during the planning stages, but then also the trip itself?
Sure. So we've used YouTube videos before. Almost every destination has YouTube videos that show the destination, show what happens in the destination. You can look up airport tours, and you can take a tour on YouTube of the airport that you're going to. They have going through security. All of those things, can be found on YouTube. Amusement parks are really helpful as well, because you can pull up, rides and actually go through the ride. There are people that have filmed the entire ride. You can watch it and see if this is a ride for you or if it's going to be too much for you. So all of that pre-planning, I think, is key. And it's very helpful because it makes things predictable, and it makes when you have predictability, it just makes it feel safer for the individual. Also, checklists are one of my favorite things to use when you're traveling. You can do quick checklists for what's going to happen on the airplane, getting through security, what's going to happen through the day, from breakfast to dinner to back at the hotel. Just to have those checklists, you can check them off, or you can put stickers to check them off, or you can just have pictures that you can move. What this does is it lets the person know what's going to happen in the day, and also when things are going to end. When is lunch going to be? If you know that lunch is next and you're hungry, sometimes it's easier to hold out and remain calm when you know that's what's coming next. If you don't know it's coming next, then you don't know when you're going to get to eat, and that can be really stressful, or when the day is going to end, or when we're going to get back. So anyway, just having that predictability, and you also feel like you have a sense of control of the day when you have those itineraries planned out. I think that's really huge for an individual. I think a travel kit, knowing what you're going to need, is also super helpful. Caroline, you have lots of things that you pack that you make sure that you have every time. What are some of those?
Like
things?
AirPods,
your chargers.
Yep.
She never wants to run out of battery. Very key, because if you do, then you don't have access to your technology. So she makes sure that you have your technology. Sometimes you bring a blanket. You have your loop earplugs, snacks. So you always tell people to make sure that you get the airline app. Yeah, the airline app is super helpful. And what's one of the things you like to do on the airline app before you get on the plane?
Order food.
Yeah, she orders her snack through the app. So she's figured out how to order her snacks through the app, and so there's a better chance that they'll be on the plane, the ones that she likes. So anyway, it's those simple things that you can do to feel like you have control over the day. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, as we dive a little bit more into barriers to travel, because I'm sure that's some of the biggest questions that a lot of listeners might have, is what are some of the biggest barriers you've encountered when traveling with developmental disabilities, and how how can they overcome them?
Yeah. So, Caroline, what are a couple of the things that stress you out?
Long lines, like at pre-check, so the lines are shorter, and then anxiety about checking a bag, so I just carry on. I can.
Yeah. And then if you can't carry on, what do you do?
Use the app or air tag.
Use an app or an air tag so she knows where her
Air
luggage
tag
is.
is.
So yeah, she has anxiety about losing the bag, so she usually likes to travel with a bag, which is just a small thing that you can do is stick an air tag in a bag so you can keep up with it. Plus, a lot of times the airline apps will keep up with your bag and you can track it on the airline app as well.
Yeah.
So if you
Well, and I know I also look at United Airlines, and I know like with United, I think they just launched something where you can sync the Apple Air tag with the United app. So just like how you can track the bags on the app, now you're able to. And I don't know if other airlines do this, but I can only speak for
right.
United. But you can sync. It's you in addition to being able to track your bags, to also know that the airline can also have access to that Apple tag.
That's a good tip, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yep. Air tag everything you deem valuable.
There you go.
Awesome.
There you go. So yeah, I think unpredictability, like we were saying, not knowing what's coming. My sister, when she was 2, we took a trip, and I remember we got to the hotel and she fell apart, crying hysterically, and wanted to go home. And we were trying to figure out what it was. She thought that we had moved to the hotel and that we were never going back home. And it seems like a simple thing that you would understand that when you go to a hotel that you're going back. But if you have difficulties kind of understanding what's happening and nobody explains it to you, you could think you're never going home. Or so it's those things that you don't think about, that this pre-planning and the itineraries and the visual checklists and all these things can really help head off before those meltdowns happen. Crowded, loud spaces, unexpected things, like you're in airports are chaotic. There are tons of people, and some are much busier than others. That can be stressful. So knowing, like, if they have quiet rooms, where to go, in the airport, having that map can be super helpful. I think sometimes parents have fear of a stigma or of what are people going to say? Like, what if my family member has a meltdown and I don't know what to do? They are fearful of that, and it can prevent travel or even getting out of the house. So that can be a barrier. And then I think just planning fatigue. It's a lot of work. Making sure that you have all of those things, and making sure that you have your travel kit, and making sure that your person is prepared. And even in all that, there can still be unexpected things. How do we handle that? So it's just, for a parent or a caregiver, that can be a barrier, because they're just like, never mind, I just want to stay home. And so that's when, we can help to kind of to walk through everything and make it, as successful as possible.
Awesome. Now let's dive into some of Caroline's personal travel stories. Caroline, can you share some of your personal travel stories from what it's been like traveling to university and even taking trips like Disney cruises?
Yes.
Going to school, I traveled by myself, used pre-check, and would usually travel to Charlotte and take a planned shuttle to campus. I learned where to get food in the Charlotte airport, like where Panera was and Starbucks. I like Disney cruises because they're less stressful than Disney parks. It's not as hot, and I know there will be food that I like. Disney cruises are fun and more relaxing.
Awesome. Awesome. And have you ever traveled to a place or had an experience that was difficult or challenging for you? And how did you navigate through that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything where you were really stressed out?
I don't know if I.
Yeah, I remember like when she was little. I mean, we went to anywhere that had bathrooms with automatic flush toilets. She was really stressed out about that. And the unexpected, because they would sometimes go off when you're sitting on the toilet, and then they would be really loud. And so like it would splash, and it's just really a lot. And so I remember one time we were actually at Disney World, and we were trying to get her to go to the restroom, and she just kept running out screaming because she was so fearful of the restroom. And so we had to come up with some accommodations, some tips to do that. We ended up where I would either go in and hold the sensor, put my hand over it to try to keep it from going off, or we would have like a Post-it note and you could just stick it over the sensor to keep it from going off. But I think it's just those unexpected things when you get overstimulated. And that's happened like sometimes when we're out, and we just have to figure out how to take a break. Like, where's our out? And sometimes you got to call it early and be like, okay, we're done. We're going back to the hotel. And I think that's another key is being flexible. You have to be flexible with your plans. You can't be so rigid that you can't change what your itinerary is going to be, because you may have an individual that just needs a break and needs to stop and might just be done for the day. And you just have to be like, that's okay. So.
Awesome. Let's now get into some resources, some inclusive travel resources. What resources would you recommend for families or individuals who are looking to make travel more inclusive? Of course, our listeners can check out your Instagram and Linktree. You can check out this, the Inclusive Travel series on this Special Chronicles podcast. But what resources would you recommend, and where can they find the best support for accessible travel options?
Yeah, sure. So yes, obviously we can go to the TikTok Travel, the Linktree. We're obviously just getting started, and so we're going to be building that resources on that page and trying to figure out what the need is. And also, if we're not developing it, we're going to be trying to show you where to find it. So after, in this 2026, that's kind of our goal, to build our resources library in that Linktree. But then also autismtravel.com is a good resource. I went through certification, became a autism travel professional. So if you put my name into that on that website, I come up, but there's other resources on that page that are helpful. So finding somebody that kind of can help you navigate if you need some resources. Sometimes just your general therapist can help. Search your destinations. Like we said before, a lot of time they have built-in resources that you might miss if you don't go searching for them. And that can be very helpful. TSA Cares is a good resource. Like if you know that you're going to need some help, or you might need some help getting through security, that's a good good program that you could reach out to. They can provide somebody to help you navigate the security. I think you've mentioned before the sunflower lanyards, especially for those with maybe an invisible disability. More people are realizing what that means, and then the people at the airports are trained to know that that's a person that may need extra support. So having those sunflower lanyards and wearing those during travel, especially at the airports, can be helpful. And then your highlighted one about the Wings for All, the Wings for Autism, that's a really awesome program. And it kind of helps a person just prepare for what the airport's going to be like, getting on the plane and going through that and practicing before you actually go wheels up and get in the air. So all of those resources are really good.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll highlight a couple that you said. The sunflower lanyard. If the listeners go on to specialchronicles.com/travel and look back on that series. I had a conversation with the CEO of the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Lanyard on this podcast. So if anyone wants to learn a little bit more about the sunflower firsthand from someone who I think not only is a CEO, but he started it because of his daughter. So he has firsthand family experience. So so definitely recommend. I know I use it now too. And then the TSA Cares, definitely check that out. And then the Wings for All, we have a 3-part series about the Wings for All when I volunteered at an event at work at the airport. And so you can hear some first-hand experiences from a United pilot, from the executive director of the ALC of Illinois, which is where I live here. So my local chapter, and then another United employee. So we kind of had 3 different perspectives about that. Let's now get into some. I know the time has been flying by, just like I'm sure travel flies by. Where our listeners can find you both. Where our listeners can find you both online, Instagram, Linktree resources, and
Yeah. So we have our Tock Travel Instagram and Facebook pages. I'll post some, and then Caroline posts some.
Yep.
And we try to post tips as well as travel destinations that will be helpful to explore. We're looking at both those that are good for people with developmental disabilities, and then also looking at those kind of on the other end of the spectrum of people that are retired that may need extra accommodations, as they age but still want to travel. So we're reaching out in that direction too. So we kind of have those 2 areas, but it's all similar in that we're helping people access travel. So you'll see a little bit of that both on our page. Caroline likes to post some funny things too, so you never know what's going to pop up on there. So I suggest you follow.
And sometimes we'll post that we booked a trip.
And sometimes we'll post trips we booked, right?
Yeah.
So
awesome.
You can keep up with what's going on for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. So for those of you watching the video on YouTube, you see the Instagram handle right below us. But if you're listening to us on audio, or even in the description below, we'll put that Instagram handle so our listeners can go and follow. And then we'll put it. And then on your Instagram, you've got a link to your Linktree as well.
Right. So in the bio, we have the link to the Linktree, and you can go there. It also has, like, if you're interested in an inquiry on a trip, that form is in there. And then we'll also be putting other resources in there. But if you want to reach out and just do an inquiry, the form is in that Linktree link in the bio, and you can always just message us too, and we check it. So yeah.
Awesome. So we'll put on those links if our listeners want to go and follow. And I think I started following you guys, and both my personal account and the Special Chronicles account as well.
You can also follow All Your Wishes Travel. That's our main company that we're under, that we our travel agency that we're under. And so they have really great posts about destinations for all over the place. So that's a good one to follow too. So All Your Wishes Travel on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Awesome. So so lots of good resources.
Yeah.
And speaking of resources, we should let you all know if you guys are listening to this podcast, and if you want to find more episodes, more inclusive travel episodes, you can check out our Special Chronicles inclusive travel series. That was inspired by the ALC's Wings for All program. This inclusive travel series explores the world of accessible and inclusive travel. Each episode features conversations like this one with top advocates. Ooh, I think it just went away. With advocates, families, travel professionals, and industry leaders who are breaking barriers and creating welcoming experiences for all. From airports to airlines, world trips to international adventures, we highlight stories, tips, and best practices that empower people with disabilities and everyone to travel with dignity and joy. And just like you both mentioned, the Wings for All. You can check out our 3-part podcast series at specialchronicles.com/wings, which takes you inside the ALC's nationwide airport rehearsal program that helps people with developmental disabilities to get an inside look. And I don't know if I mentioned, I know for those of you watching the video, you probably see it on the screen, but for those of you always have to keep the audio podcast listeners in mind. So specialchronicles.com/travel. And that link, I'll just go to specialchronicles.com and click on podcasts. With that, I know the time has just flown by, but do you both have any final thoughts on your overall time here today on the Special Chronicles podcast to share with our listeners?
Well, this was great. This was fun, and we've never done a podcast before, so this is new, and it was a fun experience. So thanks, Daniel, for doing this and providing resources to people and letting us get the word out. And, our main goal is just to help people access travel in whatever way that looks like. So let us know if you need some help.
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll definitely recommend for all of you listening, if you guys need help with inclusive travel, definitely get in touch with Laurie and Caroline and follow them at Tock Travel. And finally, got one final segment, and we've got a bumper. So let's go ahead and roll that bumper to introduce that final question.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protester.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of
difference.
Our demands are
Equality.
Dignity. And the recognition of our
shared humanity. We will not stop or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
So we don't just want our listeners to, we want our listeners to listen to this, but we don't just want our listeners to consume this content, but to take inclusion and to bring inclusion into their lives, into their workplaces, schools, communities, travel. And so this final question will kind of give our listeners like a good call to action, and you both can answer this however you want. And what does inclusion mean to both of you?
What's inclusion mean to you?
Like being able to do stuff.
Yeah. I think, I don't usually like saying what it's not, but it's not charity. It's really belonging. And I think making sure that people are accepted and they belong in all the places of life, including, home, work, travel, school, not just included, but belonging. And so anyway, I think that making sure that everybody has access to all of the things and can do all the things that they deserve to be able to do is inclusion. And we're all in this together, so we just help each other.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode. And anytime that you both want to come back on and share some more inclusive travel resources with our listeners,
Yeah.
you can. Well, you have my email, so you can get in touch anytime to come back on the program.
All right. Awesome.
And thanks all for tuning in to this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast and our inclusive travel series. A big thank you to Laurie and Caroline Bridges from Tock Travel for sharing the powerful story and practical insights on making travel more inclusive for people with developmental disabilities. We hope their experiences inspire you to plan your own stress-free, accessible adventures. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe or follow, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. You can find more resources, stories, and upcoming episodes at specialchronicles.com. Until next time, remember, truth included. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smukowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, specialchronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes for absolutely for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, specialchronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks, as always, to our business manager, Adam Smukowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smukowski. Back next week. More stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.